So Dillon Brooks made himself look like an absolute fool, and for a long time was sort of public enemy number one when it came to just memes and mockeries, whether you're Laker fans or not, right? I mean, everyone was just chiming in on the Dillon Brooks thing. Dillon Brooks talking all that talk, poking the bear, and it wasn't even so much that he talked, right? It was the result after he talked, right? He just started ducking the media and wouldn't man up, and just, it was just a real display of shamefulness, right? It just, if you're going to talk, man up. Be that person. You want to be the guy who pokes bears, right? And you want to sit there all cool with your shades and all that stuff and talk your talk. Cool. Do that. I love that. But you can't, when things start going bad, go, I don't want to do that no more. And rightfully so, everybody went in on Dillon Brooks. And Dillon Brooks has kind of just stayed quiet about it for the most part. He did make that one tweet for Dwight Howard where he talked about, hey, if no one wants to pick me up, then I may be able to go to Taiwan with you. And then Dwight responded just cracking jokes like, oh, you poked LeBear, like all that stuff. But Dillon Brooks is a free agent, right? He is out there. He is available. And an honest question. Let's remove all of our biases. Let's remove all of the just silly antics that Dillon Brooks did in the Memphis series. And let's just boil it down to him as a basketball player and a need for the Lakers. Should the Lakers take a look at bringing in Dillon Brooks? Now, some of you might say, absolutely not, no way, blah, 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 blah. I get that. But when you just remove the bias of Dillon Brooks made himself look like a clown, and let's boil down what Dillon Brooks is. Dillon Brooks is a 27-year-old, 6'7", defensive-minded player who is actually a pretty decent scorer for, he's not somebody that's a leader or anything like that. He's not supposed to be the third best guy on a roster like he is on Memphis, but he's supposed to be that guy that is just a guy off the bench, or whether he's starting. Either way, he played 73 games this season in 30 minutes. He averaged 14 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, a steal, just under a block. He shot 78% from the free throw line. He shot 47% from the field. And then he shot 33% from 3 this season. So again, he's not a great three-point shooter by any means. But one thing that Dillon Brooks might be is he might end up being very cheap. And the Lakers are going to need to round out their roster with two-way players or just even defensive-minded wing players on a reasonable cheap price. And that is where I think Dillon Brooks could be valuable. There's not a lot of teams that are going to be lining up to take Dillon Brooks after what happened. So can the Lakers come in and say, hey, we understand the antics. We saw what you did. You did it against us. That was foolish, wasn't it? But if you're willing to take, say, a vet minimum deal or something like that, come to Lakers. You're going to come off the bench or something. He's probably not going to start, but you come off the bench, gives us another sizable 6'7" defensive wing. He was above average defensive player. He was a solid defender. That was his assignment on the Memphis Grizzlies, was to guard the best player every single night. And so he did that sometimes with effectiveness. He was just so much smaller than LeBron, that so LeBron was able to bully him, but he's had success against other guys in the league. I think at the right price, and when you look at the other options that are out there, he's actually a pretty good pickup. Now, I wouldn't pay $10 million a year or anything like that for him, right? If he wants the mid-level or something like that, then yeah, no, sorry, bro. You can miss me. Go if there's some young team. There's talks about the Houston Rockets may be interested in him, which I don't understand that with his antics and that young team. I don't think that that's a guy you want. Now, obviously, the concern is the antics, right? Obviously, the concern is well, yeah, he comes to the Lakers and then he just acts and does all that stuff and talks the talk. I don't think he would. One, I think he'll be on better behavior this upcoming year. I really do. I think he kind of just that was stupid of me, right? I think that is kind of a wake-up call. But also, I think with LeBron and Darvin Ham, I think he won't play those games, especially if the Lakers get like Chris Paul too. They're not going to let him act that way. They're not. They will be on his helmet so fast. The problem is that in Memphis, there was no one to hold him accountable. Nobody said, hey, you're being an idiot. Stop it. Hey, knock that off. You're not going to do that, right? He just went in, got caught up in the moment, hyped up in the moment, right? But if he was on the Lakers, he would have several guys that'd be like, no. We're not doing that here. This isn't the place to do that. You want to do that, go back to Memphis. You ain't doing it here, right? Like that's the big difference. And so if you can get Dillon Brooks, because Dillon Brooks was just coming off of a 3-year, $35 million a year. You're not paying him $11 to $12 million a year. He's not getting that. He lost himself a bag, period. Now, maybe a team, like the Houston Rockets who got to spend money, right? Maybe they do throw $8 to $10 million contract at him. That's possible. But realistically, he's probably in like the taxpayer mid-level range to like $8 million, right? He's in the $6 to $8 million range, I think, in my opinion, given like he's a really good defensive player. He's not elite defensively, but he's very good defensively. And on top of him being very good defensively, he can get to the bucket and he can score a bit, right? This is a guy that averaged 14 points per game. So it's not like he's just like he's not useless out there. Like you see some guys that are like, oh, he's good defensively, but he averages like 3 points a game. And it's like, well, that's kind of, that doesn't really help. No, I mean, this is a guy that still can go and get you some points, generate some buckets. He's not really a great 3-point shooter. But, I mean, he's a career 14-point per game guy, right? And he's had solid years. Last year he averaged 18.5 a game. And I don't think that was because he wasn't that far off this past year as he was the previous year. It was just the field goal attempts. He took 3 less field goals this year than last year. So, if he basically needs about 13 attempts per game, 13 attempts per game to get you 14 points, and then he needs about 16 attempts to get you 18 points. Like, that's not bad. Like, that's another 14 to 18 point a game scorer who can also hold their own defensively, guard multiple positions, switch multiple positions. I think if the Lakers have a chance to get him, I think you throw a flyer at him. Again, it's going to come down to price. I'm not paying this guy anything, right? Like if he wants to get the bag, fine, go get the bag. If you want to come and sort of change your reputation, right? Because look, that's what a lot of people do, right? A lot of people go to the Lakers. We've seen it the last few years. Guys go into the Lakers to kind of change the narrative or to kind of gain the spotlight and notoriety so that way they can go get new contracts, stuff like that. Dillon Brooks could be that guy. Dillon Brooks could be the guy that comes in, take a vet minimum deal. You come in, you're going to play the role that's given to you. We're going to need you to be, a scorer and defender off the bench, right? If he's hitting, maybe you start him, right? Because, Rui at this point is best at the 4, right? And then Vanderbilt's great defensively, but can he shoot? Not that Dillon Brooks is like a lights-out 3-point shooter, but he still is slightly better shooting the ball than Jared Vanderbilt. But we'll see how it goes during the offseason. But, if it's close, maybe there's an argument to start Dillon Brooks. But realistically, you're looking at him to just be a guy to fill out the roster, right? If he's your 6th, 7th, 8th guy, it's a big difference, right? Because right now, like I said, he's the 3rd, 4th guy on the Memphis Grizzlies. It's a big jump when you go from a 3rd, 4th guy to, a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th guy on a team like the Lakers. So, I don't know. I don't hate the idea. Again, it comes down to price for me. It does. I'm not signing him for a heavy contract. If he's looking for the money, cool, go get the money. But if he wants to find a place that he can settle in, kind of shake off that just narrative that's centered around him, a place where he can go and contend for an NBA championship, and kind of find himself in a real role with guys that can properly guide him and show him, like, hey, this is not how you behave. You got to knock that off, right? Because again, in Memphis, nobody's getting held accountable. Look at Ja. Like, Ja's out here acting a fool, gets suspended, and then immediately does it again because nobody's holding anybody accountable in Memphis. Nobody. They have no structure. They have nobody that's talking and holding things down. The coach ain't saying nothing to nobody. Like, the ownership and management isn't saying nothing to nobody. And then they have a bunch of stars who are acting the same way. Like, when your best player is acting a fool, it's kind of hard to go, well, like, it's sad. When Dillon Brooks is the weakest thing that's happened for the Memphis Grizzlies, it's like, well, there you go. Like, it's nonsense. So I do think if he went to a team like the Lakers that have structure, that have a player coach who's not afraid to tell you, hey, go F yourself, whatever, like, you're not doing that here. And you have a LeBron James who as much as he wanted to talk, he respects, he knows, he gets it. Like, everyone talks until they in front of you, and then all of a sudden it's like, I get to play with him, right? So I do. I think it'd be a good pickup. A vet minimum. Look, there's not very many better guys you could get on a vet minimum deal, if any. Like, Dillon Brooks on a vet minimum deal might be the best vet minimum deal that we could get this year. Because I mean, it's not, this free agency isn't like just swimming in wealth of players. It's very limited. And but yeah, I mean, if we get Dillon Brooks, I think you get Dillon Brooks at the right price. But what do you think? Do you think and agree? Yes, go get Dillon Brooks, like, at the right price. Do you think no? We don't need him. We don't want him. But again, who are you getting? Who are you signing? You're very limited. You're very limited. And he does fill a need that the Lakers have. A sizable wing that can defend and guard multiple positions, guard the 3, guard the 2. He's guarded 4s before. Like, the Lakers could use that. Lakers could use another, Vanderbilt type player. But anyway, love to hear it. Let me know.